real DJ Black, man, that's cool. He said that he used to go into bars, witnessing. And then Nisha brought up the same point that you were talking about, where you have to know yourself, right? You have to understand,
Yeah.
if you had issues, for instance, with the real DJ Black, like he was able to go into that, but I'm sure he was very aware of like, well, I don't really have like a drinking issue. Like I'm not trying to get drunk. I don't have that taste for it, right? Like if you just got out of rehab for drinking and all that, you can't. You can still have the intentions, right? The good heart intentions, the will,
Yeah.
but you can't go back up into the bars and be like, okay, now I'm gonna go witness to you guys. It's like, nah, it's probably not a good look. It's
No.
not accountability that you were talking about. Like to have people that are not going to be yes men, right? That they're like, if you were, for instance, if you were to go into certain places with those people, and even if you had a purpose of some sort, you can't have that person who's supposed to hold you accountable be willing to budge.
Yeah.
Right? Like they'll say, hey, we're going to be accountable to one another, but it's like, but both y'all struggle with the same thing.
Yeah.
So how in the world are they going to hold you accountable when they like, oh, is that what we're doing? I mean, if you're doing it, I'm doing it too. Like I'm good. Like we
Yeah.
just rocked out, what is that like as far as, accountability like that, anybody that you've had accountability in your life, when you pair up with them, is it typically people who are stronger in certain areas that you are weak in, or do you guys just kind of sharpen one another like right where you are? Like how does that work about finding somebody who you can be held accountable to?
Most of the times when I go to my shows and stuff like that, I bring my wife with me. I'm not gonna lie. My wife's the one that's going to keep me on track. But when it comes to friends outside of that I bring with me, I've got a kind of a small circle. I don't roll with a bunch of people, and the people that I do, um, a lot of them are similar to me, and they struggle with some of the similar things to me. But most of the people, I've always hung out with an older crowd, so a lot of these guys have been doing this for years. They're outside of this. They've had more time clean. They've had more time following Christ. They're more seasoned than me. You know what I'm saying? They're people that I
Yeah.
trust. They're people that I know aren't going to lead me into something like that. And as a word for someone who's wanting to do something like that, if it's something like you said, if it's something that you struggle with, if it's something that you already have a problem facing, you want to make sure that the person that you're bringing with you is going to keep you in check. You have to be able to trust that person. And if you don't have that person, then don't do it, because you might end up getting yourself into something that you can't get yourself out of, or end up doing something that you regret.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. If you don't have someone like that, then don't do it.
Yeah.
It sounds like such a common sense answer, right? Like, but I'm sure, because I know how stubborn I am. I'm sure there's people out there like, nah, the Lord's going to bring them to me.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be here. And it's like, the Lord didn't want you to go without somebody anyway. So
Yeah. I would never go by myself. Like my first show was in Cicero. My first show was in downtown Chicago, and
wow. Yeah.
I brought my wife with me. It was just me and her. We were the only two there. But I ended up it was a connection through a brother of mine from Chicago who linked me up with these people, and he's like, "Hey man, these are good people. They'll take care of you." Um,
Yeah.
and they know what I stood on. They weren't going to allow me to get up into those things. But yeah, I definitely think that's something that's important when you're going into places like that. You have to always be checked and check yourself. If you're
Yeah.
someone who struggles with it, don't put yourself in that situation trying to think, oh, I can do this, and go out there by yourself. Because if you go there by yourself and you don't have that influence or somebody to say, hey man, you're tripping, bro, you're wilding, what are you doing? Then
Yeah.
you're gonna end up stuck.